Taj. And joining me now is the 2024 vice presidential candidate, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. Governor, you've been out doing these town halls. We just played a clip of one in Lorain, Ohio. I'm just curious what have you encountered there? Anything surprising to you about the vibe out there, given that it's 85 days in the new administration, very far from campaign season in either direction?
Yeah, well, good to be with you, Chris. Well, I think the biggest thing, I asked at one of these, how many folks have never been to a political type of event? And even I was surprised the number of hands went up, nearly half the crowd. So, look, the Democrats who are engaged, like you're talking about, and I agree with you, a lot of people are going about their daily lives, and there's just so much chaos and so many crises, it doesn't feel like the shift that we know is happening is there. I think the thing was encouraging to me is people are picking up on it fast. This is not performative resistance, if you will. This is people really concerned, and they're telling their stories that are very personal, whether it's Parkinson's and depending on Medicaid or what's happening with them at the VA. They're telling those stories in front of their neighbors, and it's very raw. It's a lot of emotion, but they're very engaged. So I think the biggest thing, and this was like Martins Ferry, you know, right across from Wheeling, West Virginia. This is an area that used to be strongly Democratic. It flipped the other way. But there were a lot of folks there saying, none of this is what we voted for. None of this is what they talked about. And so I think there is an awakening, if you will, of folks that are really engaging in a way that I quite honestly haven't seen. We've seen big crowds at rallies. This feels different to me. I mean, these are Tuesday nights in Lorain where they've never had one at a high school. They fill the auditorium and then they fill the gym. They're not coming to see me. I'm coming to see them. And I think that's what feels different.
Yeah, let me follow up on that one thing you said. One of the things I think that's been difficult for a lot of us who sort of do this professionally to navigate, even with people in our lives who are educated people who read the news, people who are, plugged in, is just when you're paying attention every moment, it's hard to convey how bad it is, what they are trying to do.
Yes.
And then there's this gap, this sort of alienating gap between what their aspirations are, which truly are like apocalyptically bad in my humble opinion. And then just like the fact that we're all, you go get coffee, you pick up your kid, you're on vacation, like it's normal. And I'm wondering how you sort of are thinking about navigating that as someone who is, an elected representative of the people of Minnesota, someone who talks to people and tries to sort of, communicate.
Yeah. Well, you want to be a calming presence. Look, I've done this through a global pandemic. I did it through the unrest of George Floyd. And you want to convey factual information and you want to normalize. Your first segment couldn't have been more spot on. I've been using, and I made this statement at one time, the road to authoritarianism is littered with people telling you you're overreacting. I have had hair on fire for a while, and I know there's, we can't swing at everything. He's just out there flooding the zone to distract you from the real stuff he's doing. I have come to understand what Donald Trump, what pops into his head and he says, he's going to carry it out. Once again, he talked about the tariffs. He talked about, he's going to deport people. And this whole thing with Mr. Abreu Garcia, it's that old wisdom and terrifying is if you're not speaking up for this man, there will be no one left to speak up for you. Whether it's Chris Krebs that they're going after for simply I know Chris Krebs. He's a Republican. He was there to provide election security in 2020. He did it, and all he said was it was a fair election. They're coming. They're going to do this. So I think the biggest thing is I'm convinced now he's not going to listen to the courts. And I've been saying there is a finer firewall, and it's the people. That's why these rallies, that's why these town halls, that's why this engagement, it's not meant to scare people. It's meant to empower people, because I will tell you what, Republican members of Congress are not afraid of the people. They're afraid of Donald Trump. They are starting to become afraid of the people. That's why they're not doing these town halls. They need to be afraid and come forward. I was a member of Congress. You need to stand in front of them and say why gutting the VA makes sense. Why did you allow an unelected official like Elon Musk be able to take away Social Security, to be able to get that data? So I think what's happening, Chris, is that it's not about terrifying people. It's about just simply and very calmly showing them they are headed towards this. Donald Trump has said it. What terrifies me is he has talked in the past about nuclear war being winnable. He thinks the tariffs, and you think that's terrifying? Look what he talks about. And if he says it, he plans on doing it.
Yeah, just to clarify, and I know you mean this because of the times we live in, you mean politically afraid of the people as opposed to physically afraid of the people, which is an important distinction.
Yeah.
Given the world we live in. I know you mean that. I just want to be very clear about that.
No, well, yeah, I appreciate you clarifying that, because I will guarantee you that clip is already on Fox News to try and say the radicalness is coming from the Democrats. It's being afraid of the people speaking their mind to them. They're afraid of the voters voting them out because they voted for these bad things. But they are more terrified that Donald Trump will say something about them or primarying them. And I don't know what it is about these people clinging to these jobs. The job of a congressman is a privilege, but it ain't the greatest job in the world. And I don't know why you're giving up your dignity, the responsibility you have to hold that job. But you're right. They think that they can disrespect the voters, and that's the feeling I got in these town halls. Don't disrespect us. Come and ask questions. And just to be clear, I did one in Texas, and there was a gentleman there that was opposed to vaccines. And he stood up and asked his question and said that. And I responded that, you know, the research shows that. You've got measles in Texas. We should be addressing them. But it's not. These are folks that just want to be heard, even though their issues weren't agreeing with mine. So I don't know. This is the time to do this. I'm going to thank all the people who are out there, all the people. And you just had Senator Van Hollen, who there's nobody better. He has to speak up for his constituent because they do plan. If they think they can get away with this, they will press it further.
You've given some interviews about the 2024 campaign, and I think all of us have a kind of things are so bad right now, that allergy to like too much retroactive, thinking. But I did want to follow up on one thing where you talked about some of the mistakes you thought the campaign made. One of them was sort of failing in outreach to Latino voters, which I think is borne out by the data. Not speaking enough, just being a little too cautious, which I think I agree with too. You talked about the unpopular stance of the Biden administration on Gaza. And I want to just ask about whether you think that campaign, the Harris-Walz campaign, should have made a more decisive, substantive policy break with the administration's policy on Gaza.
Look, I think retroactively, Chris, you could put it into more of a context. I think going back to July and watching when decisions were being made so quickly, the question was, would there be a primary? Time didn't have it. The threat was real. I think being able to clearly articulate, as I think the vice president was doing wonderfully around things like home care for using Medicare or making sure we're investing in home ownership, we could have been clear that there was a different agenda going forward. I think the time crunch made it difficult. And I think in a change election, it was difficult to show that there was a differentiation. But what I know now is, and again, that this is not all that surprising, but this is the consequence of not winning an election. And I think your point about, and I do agree with this, I think you have to flood the zone. I think the Republicans dominating the media environments that are, adjacent to what we're normally used to, we've got to be out there. And I think it's worth taking a risk to misspeak. I think it's worth it to take questions unscripted, unscreened, standing in front of people, because I think they're hungry for that. And I think Vice President Harris, her presence in those moments, I watched it, she is winning folks over. Just do more of it.
In that spirit, very quickly here, but on the Gaza question, should there have been a more definitive break with the administration on Gaza specifically?
Well, I think we would have been clearer, because a Harris administration wouldn't have us in the situation we are now. Nothing has gotten better. The situation with Donald Trump of stumping on that, we could have been in a different place. That wasn't believed by a large number of people, but I think it's clear now. And what I would say is we still need to have a two-state solution. We still need to bring peace to Gaza. We still need self-determination for the Palestinians, and Israel's needs to right for its security. Those pauses haven't changed. Donald Trump's doing none of that.
Governor Tim Walz, thank you for making time with us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Still ahead, there's a whistleblower report.